Ross McCall joining us here live on Black Sky Radio.
Hey, whoa! Black Sky Radio.
I did not watch The Band of Brothers until earlier this year when HBO put it back on HBO On Demand, and I sat down and I said, Band of Brothers, I've heard a lot of good things about this, because at the time when it came out 10 years ago, I didn't have HBO, and I didn't do a lot of movie watching. I was always busy, doing other things. It just was jaw-dropping amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that is doesn't come by so often. And from the top down, it was just I just heard a stat the other day. I don't know how true it is, but I heard it's the biggest selling DVD TV show in history.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me one iota.
Well, I know what's interesting too is I remember when the show first came out, it was funny, you'd go around town and you had a certain group of people that would recognize you from the show and want to come over and talk about it. And then when they threw it on again the following year, and then it was like a different, it just started growing. This audience started growing. It started off with kind of young males, and then the girls started getting involved and they started watching it. And then it was like, they were then buying these DVDs for their fathers and their grandfathers. So then that generation then became a part. It was incredible the way it grew and grew and grew. And I think it's now bigger than what it was when it first aired. Yes.
Mary from New York City asks, I know you have had no contact with the Liebgott family prior to filming, but I wonder if you've had contact with the family since.
The quick answer to that is no. There was a longer answer. When we were shooting the show, we couldn't find the Liebgotts. And there was a search, and we did go out, and actually nobody really knew what happened to Joe at the point of shooting. Towards the end of the series, we then found out when he died, and what family members were still in America. And through various websites and discussion boards and bits and pieces, I have since found out that there are Liebgott family members. Now, the unfortunate thing is you don't know how legitimate that is.
Right.
When it's coming through a forum. So I haven't had any contact or liaisons with any of the family, although I'd love to. We just need to make sure that it was a legitimate thing. He was a big part of my life, Joe Liebgott,
Well, absolutely. And that kind of leads us into our next question. Graham Marshall from Scotland asks, was Liebgott really Jewish? I'm sure I read somewhere that he used to let people believe he was because of his Jewish-sounding name, but in reality, he wasn't.
There was a rumor that I heard that he was a Catholic man. But no, I think the truth of the matter was yes, he was Jewish.
All right, very cool. Now, one of the guys in the chat room, Mo, has asked that he has heard that you're working with Band of Brothers castmate Frank John Hughes, and what are you working on, and how is that going?
He's right. Frank and I, I was listening to your guys, I listened to part of the interview you guys did with Jimmy last week, Jimmy Mario. And right. And what was great was, him talking about who's still in contact with who and who hangs out with who. And there's kind of like, we see everybody and, the house is always open to any of our boys. But, there is like a core group of us, maybe 5, 6, or 7 of us that see each other on a relatively regular basis. And Frank and I actually write together. And we sold a TV show, a pilot, last year, which is now out to network. So, without getting into the... there's a lot of steps you have to take to get a TV show on the air, and we're kind of at the last one now. So I can't think of anything better than going to work with my pals. You know what I mean? It's just like that's the dream for me. You go work with your pals and you have fun. And
I have no idea what that's like.
Shut your freaking face!
Everybody I work for is some sort of enemy that I just have to bring on board. They
Shut your
suck.
Face. Shut your face hole.
You should shut your face hole right now. I think.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
I think the face hole needs to be shot because you're upsetting, the pretty one.
Well, let's go on. I have a couple more questions here. Jen Lehman asks, out of the actors you worked with in Band of Brothers, who do you think you became closest to, and do you still keep in touch with? And then she goes on to add, what's your favorite episode, scene, and why?
So as far as who I became close with, like I said, there's people that I see kind of on a monthly basis. Sometimes I'll see them 10 times a month. Sometimes I'll see them twice. I saw Rick Gomez yesterday, who plays Lars, and I see Jimmy Mario all the time. I see Frank John Hughes all the time. I see Michael Cutlets all the time. Who else have we got in our little, Shifty Powers I speak to here and there, Peter Youngblood Hills. I just saw Popeye Wynn. He was over from the UK. I just saw him very briefly. Who else? I don't know. It will come to me. But there's a few of us that are always knocking on the
I've also heard that you guys get together every year for a Band of Brothers barbecue.
Yeah, which everybody else in the world thinks is ridiculous, but we look forward to it, man. It's one of those. This is all right. Time to sap up. It's one of those situations where, and Frank actually said this to me, which I think rings so true. Where we can all go to this barbecue once a year, and it's the one place where we know absolutely everything about the majority of the people there. I mean, occasionally there's a couple of cast members who we don't see very often, and they come in, and we don't really know them so much anymore. So we've got to find out a little bit about them. But the majority of us, we know everything about each other, good and bad, and we kind of embrace it, accept it, and love it. And so it's like one of those places where you just go with your girlfriend or your wife, or and you just sit there the entire day, and it's one of the most comfortable, enjoyable experiences of the year for us. We sit down and, eventually we end up getting pretty sauced, and, we eat good food and drink good beer and, have a laugh. But, it's not like, because we do see each other relatively often now, it's not like a huge, oh my God, big reunion time. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, we're going to go to Mike's and we're going to have a barbecue and we're going to get drunk and we'll make fun of a few people and have a few laughs.
What do you guys eat at the barbecue?
Whatever Bull decides to throw on the barbecue. He won't let anyone near the barbecue.
Really? So Cutlets is in charge of the barbecue?
Very, very territorial. I mean, literally, this year he had it set up where he had like a table that was it was almost like it was bartending. It was like it was behind the barbecue bar. It was weird. And I would go and like kind of stand there, because I knew it would get under his skin. And it did. And, he'd be like, this is my space. He was like a woman in the kitchen. It was crazy. But it's definitely his domain, and whatever he decides to throw on, which is usually, a good piece of steak and hamburger.
Well, let me ask you this then. Did you make sure that you made fun of Schwimmer's hair all the time then?
You know what? Schwimmer, what was good about Schwimmer, and he played it, listen to me, Schwimmer, yeah, whatever, Schwimmer. At boot camp, they definitely try to give us the vibe from David, which was good. I won't go into details, but they definitely pulled a few little tricks that would make us go, really, really? Why are we kind of sat in the mud right now and he's not? What's the deal there? And it was all about us turning on character, which was incredibly.
Right. Yeah, because when he actually got slapped down in the series, you just felt the entire time that he was working towards this. In his role as a character, you could just feel the animosity between the other characters before he even got put in his place. And you're like, oh my God, what is he doing? Why is he such a jackass? And I can see where the producers would want to exclude him from the get-go to give you guys the animosity that was for real, as opposed to trying to force that into your acting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great.
Like scripted reality.
Like script reality.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and I couldn't imagine anybody else playing his role either, because he plays that guy that you just look at and go, why are you trying so hard to be a dick?
Yes.
And then it turns out that he's not. He's just trying to do his best, and he really doesn't understand that he's being a dick. And it's like, oh, well, sorry.
The thing that they used to say about Sober was, Sober was a huge part in creating Easy Company. If he wasn't that way, then there was an argument that Easy Company wouldn't have become the stronghold and the bandage unit that they were at the company, and so a lot of people actually say it's thanks to Soul.
Yeah, he could easily be looked at as a linchpin that solidified the Easy Company as a company, because he was the guy that everyone banded around to hate, as opposed to the weakest link in the company. They all said, dude, the weakest link is our commander.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct, and there's a lot of truth to what you just said. I mean, that's amazing. Let me slide down here a little bit. Jillian Schofstall.
We're too busy geeking out and asking our own questions.
I know. We're totally ignoring
else.
all the fans. We're like, oh my god, I'm totally excited here. Jillian Schofstall asked, did you group of actors feel like a band of brothers by the end? Did you feel a special bond, perhaps, from portraying these heroes?
Oh, without a doubt. And in fact, it was way before that. Again, I keep talking about how smart the producers were. And, that's just true. One of the greatest things they did was throw us all in a boot camp together. And that boot camp was, a tremendous experience. And we would all do it again tomorrow. But, it was tough. And, some guys really found it tough. Others found it, just relatively tough. Just none of it was easy going. You know what I mean? Mentally, physically, it was all a fight. And that bonded us all.
Well, since you brought up the boot camp, how did you fare with the mental and physical parts of the 3-week boot camp that you guys went through?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, back in those days, 10 years ago, so I was 23, 24. And I was like a heavy smoker back then. I used to joke, the only running I would do is to want a shot for a pack of cigarettes. And so running wasn't my forte at all. But I decided very early on, this ain't the place to kind of, whinge and moan. You just suck it up and you do it. And, I think most of the guys amazed themselves with the endurance and the mental, get rid of the mental blocks. Because, the mental walls were probably tougher than the physical walls.
Well, Jimmy boasted as being the fastest thing on 2 feet when it came to the obstacle course, because he's
used to...
Yeah.
He's just running out of windows with TVs on his back. I mean, of course he's the fastest. Oh, Jimmy, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's great. Well, of course, yeah, because he looks like he's a little a second story guy ripping people off.
He's a scrapper.
Yeah, he's a scrapper.
Jimmy is like my him and Rick are my go-to East Coast boys. We have a lot of similarities, the three of us, and so all we do is rib each other and bust each other's balls. So yes, he was super fast on the course. Yeah.
All right. Well, this question, the next question I have comes from Silver. Silver asks, was filming the concentration camp scene as moving as it looked on screen? And I have to imagine even and I don't know that you were actually standing in front of a concentration camp, or if it was just a Hollywood-built concentration camp, but I have to imagine that whether it was built for the show or you were standing in front of one of the originals, either way, it was beyond moving.
Well, thank you for that, first and foremost. To answer the question, it was tough. It was really tough. I remember those days specifically, and we talked about I'm a Scottish Catholic boy, and I'm playing an American Jewish guy. And so there were things that I needed to research and learn. And in fact, Schwimmer was a big part of that for me in boot camp. He's of the Jewish religion, so I would ask him, untold questions, and he gave me some great advice and great bits and pieces. So anyway, the more I learned about the goings on, and I thought I knew, the majority of what happened in World War II against the minorities, and I didn't, and I found out more and more stuff that was just horrific. And there was talk about me going to one of the camps to have a look and, wander around and experience that. And before we came down to it, I actually decided not to, and it wasn't out of anything other than when you first see the concentration camp, they have no idea what it is. And I wanted to kind of have that. I wanted us to have this, okay, it's a camp, and there's survival with no idea, and nobody knew the horrors of what was going on behind these gates at that point. And so that was really important to me that we conveyed that, that we had that surprise element. So the set, yes, it was built, but the set was built in the middle of a forest that was far away. And the first time we saw that set was on film. So we come around trucks, and that's the first time we saw it. And, they had there was some effects used in that whole concentration camp scene. But I mean, there was a lot of prosthetics, a lot of dummies, a lot of animatronics, a lot of actors that they brought in that were extremely skinny for whatever reasons. Makeup was added, applied, some effects then went in later, but I do remember walking in for the first time and just, my heart breaking. I mean, it was just, it was one of it was a really tough thing. It was really tough. But in the same vein, I'm not trying to get into this big dramatic scene with it. It was a tough thing, but we knew what we were doing. We knew the story that we were telling, and, I'm glad I came across.
Excellent. Kelly Thompson asks, when you're portraying a real person as opposed to a fictional character, how do you still find ways to put your own mark on the role while still remaining true to the essence of the person you're portraying? And along those same lines, does it make you a difference if the person you're portraying is still alive or deceased?
Wow, that's a question.
Yeah, that's deep as a well, man.
Jump in. Okay, so if I'm playing a real guy, how do I put my stamp on it? I think part of you being cast as that guy is that you already have an element of him within you. And so it's kind of vice versa. You know what I mean? You have an element of him, and you also have an element of you that puts your stamp on it, so to speak. So that's not, really difficult. And also, there are a lot of times where you're playing a real person, and it's not about just looking like that person, as long as you have that essence, and that essence can be just knowing everything about that guy. You know what I mean? You don't have to sound like them or look like them, or you just have to have that essence. So I think that's where the homework comes in. What was the end of the question?
She went on to ask, does it make a difference if the person you're portraying is alive or deceased? That was the second half of the question.
Is there a difference there? I guess the only difference is if they're alive, you've got another source of homework, another source of figuring stuff out. Some of the guys had, guys that they could call and ask questions, and I had to rely on other people's memories and other sources to find out stuff, So of course it makes it easier.
Steve from the Netherlands asks, how would you sum up the men of Easy Company and others like them?
Far and beyond heroic.
Far and beyond heroic. Yeah. You can't beat that. There's nothing. Yeah. End of sentence. Period.
Yeah, we have no idea what it was like to do with those guys. No idea. We're not even close to thinking we know what they did.
My pop as well was in World War II. He's still alive today. He was in Patton's 3rd Army the infantry. He was a grunt. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. Like, he was all over Bastogne and everything like that. And I know for a fact, because he showed me Saving Private Ryan for the first time I ever seen it. I watched it with him, and he talks about Band of Brothers all the time. And what the way he looks at it is, it's bittersweet. It's like he doesn't want to remember, but he wants to remember, because in a way, it was like some of the greatest years of his life.
Right.
Because of his buddies. And that's what he calls them. He's like, those are my buddies. Those are my brothers forever. And it's hard for him to remember, but he has to, because he can't let it go, because it was like one of the greatest things that ever happened to him. And in a way, he thanks you and the other actors for being a part of that, and of course bringing it to my generation, the TV generation that learns through the television. And
we're just a vein to show, to turn that back on your grandfathers. We were just a tool just to show what those guys did. You know what I mean? That's very sweet of him saying thanks, but no, it's us being thankful. It's absolutely our pleasure to be able to show our generation what went on.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that's what we did. I think it did. It opened a lot of people's eyes to what people like your grandfather went through.
Yeah, and it makes people of my generation interested. It's like they want to go out and they want to learn more. They want to do what Nightmare did and take classes, read books, dig a little deeper, because they were shown a great show.
Yeah.
Ross Owen is going to be calling us to join right now.
He better be wearing the green and white.
Well, Ross, are you wearing the green? Ross Owen, are you wearing the green and white right now for the Celtic clan?
No, I am not. How you doing, Ross?
Oh, very well, sir. Listen to those dulcet tones. That sounds fantastic.
I tell you what, I have to say, it's been absolutely fantastic listening to the interview. Everyone's loving it. So thanks for spending so much time with us, Ross. It's been absolutely great. I just wanted to quickly ask a question that came from the chat room, and then I'll get offline. One of the questions somebody asked was, what was your favourite episode?
I've got a couple. I mean, obviously the whole show was beautifully done. But I actually, and this isn't me taking a humble route at all, but episode 7, which is the only episode that I'm only in for like I think just one tiny little scene, but it's the Battle of Foy, and that episode to me is just like, blows me away. It follows Lipton and Spears, and kind of like the higher ups in Easy Company, and so for me as a viewer, I watch that and I'm blown away by it. And also, 9 is obviously very close to my heart, the concentration camp episode. But again, big fan of 10. When we're all in Austria. I mean, it's beautiful to watch. So I have a ton, man. I have so many favorite parts. It's ridiculous.
We must talk about Captain Di. Nightmare's a big fan of Captain Di, and he's agreed to come on.
The thing with Captain Dale Di is Captain kind of became like, I don't know, like he kind of became like my surrogate father almost. Me and him. And some of the guys will tell you this. The captain would nickname me Bolt, and I was kind of weirded out by it at first. I was like, "Why am I getting a nickname and no one else is? Is this some weird military thing? I don't understand what this is." But what I used to do is I used to mock the captain in front of him, in front of the company, in a very sweet way. I mean, not in a derogatory term at all. But I would just say things that most people would get in a lot of trouble for, and I would just get away with it for whatever reason. And
oh my God, you're like my little brother.
Yeah, and he called me the Bolt, and it was actually like a huge compliment. His driver in Vietnam, when he was actually in Vietnam, was nicknamed the Bolt, and he called him the Bolt because he kept everything together. And so, and I only found this out after he kept calling me Bolt. I was like, "Do you not know my name? I don't understand." And they're like, and so now, very quickly, it's still, every time I see him, it's, "Hey, Captain." He's like, "Bolt," and we hug it out, and we're very personal friends now, which is great. And we kind of did at the end of the show. I mean, Captain towards the end of the show, and I was a young man back then. Towards the end of the show, it was like, there was a course selection of us that would go boozing and kind of tear it up over the weekends. And the captain was very much involved in those weekends with me as so, I used to enjoy immensely getting drunk with a cap and, telling everybody the monstrous stories on a Monday morning, but he's a amazing man. And, a huge part of, the band wheel. I mean, he really did kind of give us the tools to make it look real, and so we all kind of bow to him, and he's still captain, and, just hang with him socially now. It's great.
Let me ask you this question about Dale. Does he show up at the barbecues? Is he one of the guys that still shows up, or?
He's the first to get there and the last to leave. Are you kidding?
Well, that's an old soldier saying right there. Is you never pass up free food.
Yeah, he's there, and he's got his challenge coin, and he tries to challenge us every time. And he tells us. He tells us all these great, wonderful stories of boot camp that we've all heard 100 times, but there's always somebody new that hasn't heard it. And still the way he tells it is so, endearingly charming and fun that, it's just great to hear. It's great to listen.
I can imagine that you're kind of like 6-year-old or 7-year-old kids that want to hear the same bedtime story 2 and 3 times a night before you go to bed every time he talks.
Absolutely, and he makes it all look like glowing heroes. I mean, it's great for us, especially if there's young ladies there that, we're trying to impress.
Well, sure.
He's all of a sudden like, Bolt now, he's a soldier.
I'm guessing he's probably one of the greatest wingmans known to the dating scene.
You would think. I've got some stories on Captain. In some places that I will not. I'm biting my tongue.
Well, we'll have to get these stories when we get him on. Maybe we can get you and Jimmy and Scotty to call in and give him shit right here on Black Sky.
Genius.
Okay, so at Macageezer is your Twitter name. I'm going to find you both from Black Sky and myself. You'll notice me following you, Nightmare 54, and if you want a bunch of followers immediately,
listen up.
Just tell Ross Owen that you need a bunch of followers.
Ross Owen, get me some followers. Listen, I'm not a big Twitter guy. I think anybody who says they tweeted, I want to punch them in the face. It just sounds ridiculous. But I've been told that I have to get on it by some people, and so there's a bet here, so let's try and get some numbers.
I have like 1,600 followers, and I am not a big deal, and that was all Ross logged into my account, and he got me like 1,500 1,600 followers like overnight.
If you're listening to it, get it going, my man. Let's get some people.
There you go. That's how it works. Well, Mr. Ross McCall, thank you very much for joining us here on Black Sky Radio.
And for our listeners who want to keep tabs on you, what do?
They go to Twitter and do Macageezer, and I'll keep everything up to date, I promise.
Good.
Thank you for everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for bringing it up. It was our pleasure.
All right. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ross McCall, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Big love, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks again. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.